Bethany Hamilton. If you haven't heard of her, she's the female surfer who was attacked by a shark in 2003, losing her arm, and then decided to go back to surfing and is a professional surfer to this day. If you surfed in the early 2000s like I did as a kid, she was a legend. This story was all over the place. It's an incredible story of heroism and facing your fears and conquering your fears. Well, Bethany has recently spoken out against the WSL, the World Surf League's new policy to allow, you're probably guessing where this is going, biological males to compete in the women's division. I wasn't even aware this happened until recently Tulsi Gabbard went on PBD podcast and was talking about it.
Bethany Hamilton is a surfer out of Hawaii. Mm-hmm. You know who I'm talking about. She had her arm bitten off by a surfer, a shark when she was a kid.
Yep.
Still competing on the circuit. And once the World Surf League announced biological males will be allowed to compete against women on the tour, she was the only one who had the courage to speak out. She never talks about politics. She is so pleasant, so mellow, doesn't get involved with any of the headlines or anything that goes on, but she recognized that she had a responsibility to speak up, and she did, and she got attacked heavily for it, which I think she expected, and she spoke out in the sweetest, kindest, most compassionate way, just saying that I'm not against anyone, but this is about what's fair and what's right for women on the tour, and it's just not right. Shortly after that, International Women's Day came around, and every year the WSL welcomes professional surfers, men who want to put the name of a prominent woman who inspires them on the back of their jersey for the contest on that day. I think there were 5 or 6 men who wanted to put Bethany Hamilton's name on their jersey that day, and the WSL said no.
Wow.
You are not allowed to put her name alone on your jersey.
A woman's name.
A woman's name.
Yeah.
A woman who has, throughout her lifetime, exceeded all of the obstacles put before her and is thriving as a human being, as a professional surfer, because she had the audacity to speak out.
Bethany spoke up against this. She was the only female, mind you, who had the courage to do so. Not surprising, since she's also the only female who lost an arm to a shark and went back to surfing. I'd probably stay as far away from the ocean as I possibly could if that were me. Anyway, on Instagram, she put out a video speaking out against this, was very sweet about it, was very kind, was not confrontational at all, and just said, hey, maybe we should rethink this. Is this fair?
Today, I want to address the news that the World Surf League has officially made the rule that male-bodied individuals known as transgender athletes can officially compete in the women's division. The World Surf League says they are following the Olympic guidelines. While I address this issue, I want to be clear that I strive to have love for all of mankind, regardless of any differences. But this concerns me as a professional athlete that has been competing in the World Surf League events for the past 15 plus years, and I feel that I must speak up and stand up for those in position that may feel that they cannot say something about this. I think many of the girls currently on tour are not in support with this new rule, and they fear being ostracized if they speak up. So here I go. Questions I have that I want to consider with you. How is this rule playing out in other sports like swimming, running, MMA? Have any of the current surfers in the World Surf League been asked what their thoughts and opinions are on this new rule before it was passed or announced? Should there be a conversation with the 17 women and all of the men on tour prior to a rule change such as this? Is a hormone level an honest and accurate depiction that someone indeed is a male or female? Is it as simple as this? Who is pushing for this huge change? Does this better the sport of surfing? Is this better for the women in surfing? If so, how? How did whoever decided these hormone rules come to the conclusion that 12 months of testing testosterone make it a fair and legal switch? Why is the WSL's statement about trans women competing with women, and yet there's no mention of converted women competing with men? I personally think that the best solution would be to create a different division so that all can have a fair opportunity to showcase their passion and talent. And I think it's really hard to imagine what the future of women's surfing will be like in 15 to 20 years down the road if we move forward allowing this major change. But we are seeing glimpses of male-bodied dominance in women's sports like running, swimming, and others. My hope is that if I ever have a daughter who is competing in surfing or any sport, and also for all the aspiring young generation of women, to have a bright and promising opportunity in her ambition to be the best of the best woman in her sport. I personally won't be competing in or supporting the World Surf League if this rule remains. Thanks.
You can probably guess she caught a ton of heat for it and basically was forced to release another video saying, and thankfully didn't apologize, but said, look, I'm just coming from this place of we need to really think about this.
Going into this, I knew the hammer of mean and cruel and harshness would be thrown down on me for not going with the flow, for having a different opinion, for being open and sharing my questions, thoughts, and my opinion on the new rules implemented that transgender athletes or male-bodied athletes can now compete in the women's division of the World Surf League as following the Olympic rules. According to the policy, in order for these athletes to compete, they must meet a certain testosterone requirement. Are they simply a hormone level? Am I just a hormone number? Is it as simple as that? I'm not going to go into a bunch of questions, but from what I know, this is not supported by the majority of the women currently competing on the tour. And these women are amazing, kind, beautiful ladies. They're not hateful, transphobic ladies that share this same or similar opinion as I. But now all of these ladies get to see me taking this public, and what a hateful and cruel world it can be, where people sit behind their screens and instead of having a thoughtful debate or conversation, instead they choose to spew awful things and tell you to be quiet. To me, that is a scary world, to shut up debate and conversation. And I believe that is very wrong. I don't blame the other athletes for not wanting to speak up because they know too well how harsh and cruel the world can be. I will say, though, it's been amazing to see the amount of people opening up and talking about this issue. The majority are in agreement with me, and I'm glad I can help encourage others to stand up. There were even some very thoughtful and differing opinions shared with interesting thoughts, but they've done so in a nice way. And so thank you to those of you who are nice, even if you disagree. If there's one thing I've learned over the last few years, it's that I don't and I won't live in an anger at the world and the people I share it with. I won't hate because I don't see things the way others may. And I will continually aim to have grace, forgiveness, and love and honesty, no matter how cruel and harsh the world may be. So, lots of love, everyone.
Kudos to her for speaking out. That said, guys, we need way more of this. We need women speaking out against this unfair treatment in sports. Men can talk until we're blue in the face, but it's going to take real women standing up for their rights. So good for Bethany for doing this. My hope is that more women continue to follow her lead and speak out.